Good evening. We, of course, had the Who's on today at the biggest pub in town at Rosehill. That's the go now. They advertised, well, even yesterday, it was come out to the Turf Pub, and that was yesterday, the twilight meeting at Randwick, where they raced on the Kensington track. I suppose after the quite a few people knocked off the crowd. There was a big pub there towards the end of the day. No one in the betting ring, but the pub was all right. That's the way they're advertising now. I suppose it might be their only hope. Of course, we had 1,000 meetings on during the week. Kembla Grange, besides somewhere else tomorrow as well. Kembla Grange is on tomorrow. God, didn't they get that? You know, Canterbury, Wyong, Kensington, Rosehill, Kembla, plus all the 1,000 other meetings. Yes, it'll keep on going. It'll stand up for sure. Well, anyway, Canterbury on Wednesday, the track was given out a dead 4 there, and it stayed a dead 4 all day, and the rail was in the normal position, and the fence was the place to be. It was an advantage to be on the fence, where most winners, well, the first race, the winner led on the fence, got an easy lead. We got to the last race, of course, where there were only 8 runners, 7 scratchings in the last, where we had, as I say, 8 runners, and the winner, Smart Moochie, resuming from a spell. Well, it came from last, around them on the turn, widest runner in the straight, ridden by Killer Cath. They say Killer Cath is all right after the tumble yesterday at Kensington. Anyway, it came from last, around them. But if you will even Mega think that in race 6, there was it came from midfield, and they all crossed the line there. The first there were the first 7 runners. There was only 1.5 lengths between them. Run that race over again, you get a lot of different results. But it was an advantage to be on the fence saving ground. And I suppose the last winner, Smart Moochie, from where it came from, there was a little bit of speed up in front with Bonsai, who led on the fence and finished up running second, but beaten 1.5 lengths. I suppose it wasn't a bad effort. Then we went to Wyong on Thursday, where the track was given out a dead 4. The rail was 3 metres out there. It was upgraded straight after the first race to a good 3, and there was no bias really on the track, although most of the winners were all up near the lead. There was nothing wrong with the fence. We were scratching our head after the first race and saying maybe it wasn't, because they got along a bit in the first race, and there were only 7 runners, and the winner was 3 lengths from the second last horse. They were spread out a bit in the first race, but they did go hard, and it rounded them up down the outside. But after that, there was nothing wrong with the fence, and and most of the runners were not only on the fence but up near the lead, which was most probably a little bit of an advantage. And then we went to Kensington yesterday, the twilight meeting, where the track was good, downgraded to I think dead, or yes, it was, or they might have left it good all day. I think they did. It was raining before the first race, and just as before the first race started, the rain eased. We, as I say, we were on the Kensington track, and everybody's raving about how it holds up. But it's got me beat. They say it's the best track of all times. But why was the rail 5 metres out? Interestingly, there was only the one leader to win, and that was in the 4th race, Tenaticus, it led, which was a little bit surprising. Didn't had a nice easy time up in front. The runner that sat on its outside, sensing, after they'd topped the rise, or there's no rise, not as big a rise as on the course proper, but after they'd swung for home, sensing was able to get at least a long neck in front of Tenaticus, but Tenaticus came again. And as I say, it was the only leader to win, and I think it was a bit of an advantage to be coming off the pace and around them as the day went on. There was a good stiff sou'wester blowing, which was helping them more or less down the straight, but in the distance races, in the back straight, the leaders were running into the breeze. I don't think whether the breeze had something to do with it, I'm not too sure. But even in the sprint races, they were it seemed to be the runners that got off the fence seemed to have a bit of an advantage. And as I say, Killer Cat, apparently she's all right. She on a horse called Natch Catch in the fifth race. Apparently, Kath's one of her might have been her near side boot came out of the irons, might have slipped out of the iron, and she just she came off and could have been clipped by another runner, maybe Man of War, after she'd fallen. But apparently, and as everybody, and hope she's all right. That was about the meeting there. As I say, only the one leader got home. Then we got to today's meeting at Rosehill, and the track was given out a dead 5 and upgraded to a dead 4, and eventually, yes, it stayed that way all day, from a dead 5 to a dead 4. The Stide said the rail was 6 metres out, and apparently the grass was a good length, and that might have been some of the reasons after they'd flattened the grass near the fence as the day went on, and the outside they weren't first few races they weren't really big fields, and maybe coming down the outside with the grass not as flattened as it was near the fence. The fence turned out to be a big start there today, and the last winner, they went 100 mile an hour in the last winner. The winner came from 4th last. Anyway, we'll get to that later on. Race 1 here today, on the screen, they said there was 104.6 in the marketplace, nearly 5 less, about 99 we gave. And when they hit the line, there were only the 6 runners, and there was only 1.1 lengths between the 6 runners, showing that the betting here was very skew-if. At one stage, the winner, and we're talking about Forget Maybe, who settled down last on the fence, I'll tell you about that good man Pooty later. What a nice swine. Anyway, Forget Maybe settled down last on the fence, eased off heels, turning for home. He pushed, shouldered Bring Ring, the visitor from down in Melbourne, out of the way, and was able to win by and beat that runner by. It ran second, Maysoon, and Bring a Ring ran third, 0.2 by 0.3. But as I say, only 1.1 lengths between the 6 of them. The favourite sat in the 1-1 position, seemed to have its chance, but it wasn't on the fence before the turn, was it? And as I say, there was only 99% in this race. These were the flux. Evens out to $2.10, suit back into $1.70 when the second pick, Black Revolver, didn't have a price at the finish. $8 out to $11, back into $10, Bring a Ring. Black Revolver, $3 They returned at $3.50, was $4 begging at the finish of betting. 16 as a sold, $17 into 15 at one stage, $15 forget maybe, but back out to 18 at the death, 50 out to 70 into 50 the life, and May soon was $8 out to $10 back into $9. And we'll run this race again, and especially if there was, I suppose there wasn't any bias in the track, you get a few different results. The winner was obviously a good little win because he had to get off the fence and come a little bit wideish in the straight. The second race, well, this one very easily, the favourite, Memorial. It's had the 2 starts now for the 2 wins. It was close to the fence there last start at Rosehill. I think I might have pointed out to you that wasn't the place to be, especially after, excuse me, that Pooty Blue, Godfather. Oh, it's delicious. Memorial was in the worst section of the ground last start. It was a good win. Today, another very good win, won by 3 3/4 lengths, about 3.8 lengths. And Gay's runner, I Own the Lead, Spirit of Joy, who had the outside alley, barrier 10 in a field of 10, it sped across, found the 18 pence, and it hunted up Memorial from barrier 3 to be right on its back, turning for home. It got off the fence under a bit of pressure, Spirit of Joy. The winner, ridden by clever Karen McAvoy, ambled up to it after they'd flattened out, and the leader gave in fairly easily, and it went away, as I say, and won by 3.8 lengths. The runners that, the runner that ran third in this race, the 150 to 1 chance, Prince Zola, emphasising how the fence was a better place to be. It had barrier 1, and it never left the fence, sitting midfield on the fence, and was beaten 4 lengths, but got past a lot of other fancied runners. And number 12, it ran second, and at one stage, I think it drew barrier 2, and it was on the fence as well. So the picture wasn't real clear, but then it got a little bit clearer when we got to the next race. In this race, they said there was 102.8 on the screen, and that was very close to the mark, maybe 1 less only, or 2 less in the marketplace, and that would be with Spirit of Joy. The best luck might have been 440, but there was 480 given on the fence, and maybe a bit better in the outside ring. Race 3, there was a 101.8 on the screen, and a couple less, or 3 less in the marketplace, about 99%. And this race was won by the opening favourite, or opening equal favourite, La Pieta, who drew the inside marble in a field of 8. It had barrier 1. The well-backed Coins and stablemate to the winner. It ran second. It led on the fence. They did say if it jumps, they're going to go forward. It did jump, and it went straight to the lead. Now, the first race, no, the second race, no. And did go straight to the lead, and La Pieta hunted up, ridden by clever Karen, to be right on its tail, and the second horse, Coins, was $8.50 into $5.50, a 15 to 2 chance into 9 to 2, and they just failed to get the cash there because it was by far the best back runner in the race. The equal opening favourite with La Pieta was Christy Lee, and the both of them were extremely hard to lay. I would have to say this was a good result for the captains because Christy Lee, who sat in 5th position, looking at the leaders, the runner that got trapped wide in the run here from the outside alley, had barrier 8 in a field of 8, was hell of a time. So you can forget its run on the buyer's track. But the 2 runners that opened up equal favourites, they were very hard to lead, with Christy Lee going from $3.20 out to $4, and the winner La Pieta from $3.20 out to $4.40. I would say a good result for the captains because there was a bit of money for relevant time at $18. As I say, Coins was back. Fulminate, they killed you for $6.50 at one stage. Cookler was back. They took 15 and 16. Charzed, they took 11 and $9.50, and they took $26. Rosehill. They left us with La Pieta, so you can have it. And the captain, the statue, was a little bit too strong. Race 4. Now they said there was 104.1 on the screen, a couple less in the marketplace, only about 102, and it went straight to the lead. Travolta, I Own the Lead, trained by Gay, and had barrier 1, a field of 8. The short run, or the 2,000 metre run up the side of the track, they don't have to travel too far before they start turning, and he made sure he held the lead, the Tommy Terrific Berry, and Tommy Terrific was able to control this race. It was second up today, going from 1350 up to the 2000, but Gay, being the great trainer she is, excuse me, he's a bludger, that Pooty. The section never turned up, but more Pooty Blue. But what, it's a joke. He said, I said, whatever you do, don't send it via, the joint where there's more corruption than anywhere else in the world. Don't play, but that's where he sent it, and it hasn't arrived, of course. Anyway, Travolta led all the way, and when they got to the 600 metre mark, he was he had a nice rolling action underneath him, Tommy Terrific, and he just was able to let it slide coming around the turn, and it kept on going. Of course, it was in the best section of the ground. The Mr. Waller had 4 runners in the race, and he ran first, second, and third. The second horse coming from last and around them wide, so but beaten 2.3 lengths, but coming around them wide and running on down the outside, making up so much ground. Its run would have had to have been good, and he was able to get past the stablemate Successio, who was on the leader's back right on the fence all of the way. And as I say, Hoyloni was able to make up a lot of ground down the outside, so you can give it an extra tick for its performance. Race 5, they said there was 104 on the screen. There was a neat 100 in the marketplace, 4 less. Well, the top weight here in peril, there was a mile of $6, and 2 runners down the bottom, Magic in the Mix. Although the best luck was $15. Well, I was 19 when they jumped, and the bottom one, it's only a 0.5% difference, but Druid, they said the best luck was 90. It was 201 on the rails, and I was 201. So if you backed it, you were glad it didn't win, or I suppose you were glad if it would have won, you'd be kicking yourself if you weren't at the races, because you could have got 201 at the races instead of the 90s. But how was it going to win anyway? Or Magic in the Mix, especially the way the track was playing. This race, emphasising very clearly now that the track on the rails was by far the place to be, is when they jumped out, the obvious leader in this race was going to be Calvo, had barrier 3, and it did lead early, and coming across and sitting on its outside was the top weight in peril, who also was going to be very handy. If not, most maps would have had it coming across and sitting outside the lead. But this young boy, D. Thornton, I think I've mentioned, he's not a bad hickey hockey. He can steer pretty good, this kid. He he took hold of Calvo and said, no, clever Karen, you can go to the lead. He let him get around him, and he got straight onto his back, and coming and sitting outside the leader was the sensationally backed Specific Choice from $3.80. I think they returned at $2.60. I was still at $2.70 or $2.80 when they jumped. And they said it was going to be ridden a bit quieter, Specific Choice. And also in this race rule book, they said they were going to ride it a bit quieter as well. Well, with this favourite Specific Choice, with horseman Hugh Bowman aboard, it finished up sitting outside the lead. As I say, looked like he was going to slot into the 1-1 position when very early in the piece when it was leading Calvo, but when In Peril went to the lead, he went around and sat outside the leader, Specific Choice. And after they turned for home, they did have the blinkers off today, but it was under pressure straight away, and it never got beat far, only beaten about 2.5 lengths, running 6th. But for a runner that was so well backed, I suppose anybody who was on it was very, very disappointed. And I agree, I could easily see how you would be. As I say, $3.80 into $2, more or less, $2.80, not $2.60. So the best backed runner all day. And when they turned for home, In Peril was sitting there rolling along in the best section of the ground. The favourite dropped off, and when it dropped off, there was a lot of room for Calvo to just ease around the leader's heels, and he finished up wearing it down. But as I say, did have the fence to help it along, and it beat the leader by 0.2 of a length. And coming from about 7th or 8th position, one off the fence, making up good ground down the outside, was Corabetti, who was very easy in the market. Went from $4.20 out to $6. Likewise, In Peril, it went from $4.20 out to $6. By the same token, the winner, it didn't have a price in the marketplace, number 5 I'm talking about, although they did take 60. So if I suppose if you gave 60s, the flux were 40 out to 60, back into 50. So I suppose if you gave the 60, and you're a captain and you did lay it, it could have easily taken some of that lovely cream off the top. But for most captains, I would say it was a skinner for the books. Anyway, what else? They more or less raced in pairs, and first and second had the bias in their favour. Race 6 came along. Oh, what happened here? This little grey netty white sage from barrier 14 in a field of 14. I expected what happened did happen, and that was ridden by James McDonnell. You couldn't see him getting trapped 3 wide here, but by the same token, he didn't have to use a lot of pressure to get this this pit pony, as everybody calls it, because it's not very big. But as I pointed out to you, it's got the most beautiful galloping action, and also got the very strong hind quarters where it gets all of its power from. It came across and found the fence, straight across them, found the fence. Lines came across, it had barrier 13 in the field of 14 and sat on its outside. And who was directly behind the leader on the fence? Well, of course, the obvious one that everybody would have had in that position was Terra Vista. It had barrier 1, and it sucked up behind the favourite all of the way. There was a runner that got trapped wide in the race. It finished up running last, again emphasising not the place to be, and that was Merlin Mustang. It was midfield, or sitting about 7th position wide, and it got beat 12-point lengths, dropping out. when they turned for home, White Sage had travelled sweetly, hadn't had to use any petrol more or less, had a nice little kick. Terra Vista went out after it, getting off its heels and couple off the fence, but couldn't run the leader down, who did have the bias in his favour. So did the second horse, beaten 2 lengths. And who ran third in the race, emphasising very, very strongly that the fence was the place to be, was Alma's Fury, who had barrier 2, and it was on the back of Terra Vista, and it ran third, beaten 3.8 lengths. Running fourth in this race was She's Clean, who ran a lot better than last time we saw it in Sydney. It sat back. Well, it was in the 3 wide position following Merlin Mustang, so She's Clean's run might have been all right. It made up a lot of ground down the outside as well, Destiny's Kiss. But first and second and third had the bias in their favour. Race 7. Now, did I say in that race there was? Oh yes, in that race. I gave you in the percentages in race 5. Now in race 6, they said there was 110.2 on the screen. Now how in the hell, you just know, how in the hell in Sydney? This is Sydney. Sydney, you've got to bet around about 100 or less every race. There was only 101. These were the flux. Malavio 16 into 13. Alma's Fury 21 all the way. She's Clean $11 out to 15. Destiny's Kiss 40 into 30. Then we had Monton 40 into 30. Sedcom $10 out to 12. 100 out to 200 all legal. Merlin Mustang 20 out to 30. Strike the Stars at $10 out to 12. Ninth Legion $10 out to 12. 200 Court Connection. Lion 16 out to 19, back into 17. Now this is where you wouldn't see it here, and also with Terra Vista. Now this is where most of the percentages involved. Look, I don't know what the best luck was. I think it might have been about $3.40 about the winner, White Sage. There was $4 given on the fence, and a mile of $3.50 in the outside ring, and so I saw and $3.70 on the fence for plenty of money. Did see, as I say, $4, and the bottom one, Terra Vista, they returned it $5, a 4-to-1 chance, 4-to-1 bar, but it was 5-to-1 bar. A blind man could get the 5.50, but you could. I was $6 when they jumped, and it was 5.50. Plenty of boards on the fence, $6 on one board. So there was only about 101 in that race. Race 7, 106.4, 5 less again in the marketplace, about 101. And who won this race? Oh, it was the leader, Zaratone, on the fence, emphasising the fence was the place to be. Who ran second and was right behind him on the fence, where it was always going to be. We all knew Zaratone was going to go to the lead, and it had barrier 1 Hard Tester. It was going to suck up behind it. Unfortunately for Hard Tester backers, Master Harry, there's no steward's report up yet, but I think Master Harry laid in a bit down the side, and Hard Tester lost its momentum for a few strides, and it most certainly lost a length, but then regathered and was right on the back of the favourite, looking at it, in the place to be on the 18 pence. And when they turned for home, unfortunately for Killer Cat, who would have been aboard Zaratone, except for her mishap yesterday, it was ridden by brilliant Brendan Abdullah, and he led, and of course this runner, I think I pointed out to you its last 2 runs, especially its last run when Heart Tester won. It was on the fence at Rosehill that day, and the fence was no good. So Zaratone's run, I think I might have said to you, give it an extra tick, because it was on the 18 pence, whereas Heart Tester was off it all of the way. And he turned the tables today. He got the bias in his favour today, Zaratone. The 8-year-old. There were 2 6-year-olds in the race, but the 8-year-old was the victor, having the bias in its favour. The favourite ran second, more or less having its chance, and the only 3-year-old in the race. It sat midfield, was in 5th position, a good way back. They were spread out because they were really running along. Talking about Safeguard, it was eased off heels turning for home. He would have been better off staying on the fence where there was a mile of room, but ridden by Clever Karen, he got to the outside, and it did make up a good bit of ground, beaten 3.6 lengths in not the place to be. And of course, a runner hitting the line very well. It might have come back all right this time as Jack and Obey. It found the line very well, close to the fence towards the finish, which might have flattered its run a little bit. Plus, it was a very fast race, and horses hitting the line, of course, it's of course they've got to hit the line when they're back, and they've gone hard up in front, even though it was only an 1100 metre race. And then we got to the last, and this was a huge difference to me. I wanted the second horse, Skip Town, but the winner, Mercia, it settled well back. The runner that started favourite in this race was Tralfaz, and I made a mistake and put up $9 about this horse, 8 to 1, and someone was kind enough to come across and tell me, have you made a mistake there, or are you betting those odds? And I said, well, look, I've actually made a mistake, and I didn't have to bet that person the $9, the 8 to 1, so that was very generous. I have done the same thing myself when I see bookmakers make a mistake putting the prices up. It did start $5. They returned it shorter, about $4.60 or $4.40 even. I was $5.50 just before they jumped, where someone claimed me to win 2,000 or 3,000. I just forget, but it was still $5 on my board when they jumped, and it was made a lot of use to finally cross and get the lead, which took its toll at the finish. It only was beaten 2 lengths, but still. Well, in this race, first of all, they said there was a 106.5. There was dead set 6.5 less in the marketplace, the neat 100. And in this race, we saw, as I say, after coming from a wide alley, Tralfaz was always going to be up near the lead. Finally found the lead, but a little bit off the fence. Skip Town, who made it work and cross it, it was sitting second. Tucked in behind them from an inside alley was Kangistar, who had every possible chance. And then there was a little bit of a break to Kiranata, and the field was fairly well spread out. The winner, Mercia, who was resuming from a spell, sat well back in about 4th last position, ridden by Tommy Terrific Berry, and he weaved in between runners at one stage, going for a split halfway up the straight, and it half closed on him, and he had to check, lost a little bit of momentum, but then when the leaders began to paddle towards the end of the race, he was full of running, and he burst through the middle, and he finished up nabbing Skip Town right near the line to win by 0.3 of a length, and also coming from back in the field, but off the fence, which was an advantage, was Sir Burris. But by the same token, it was on the fence before the turn, but finished wide in the straight, and the margins were only 0.3 by 0.5. But they did go hard up in front, with all of the riders by now. It does take, well, I suppose some people, well, I shouldn't say that, but they were everyone was a jury, of course, that it was an advantage to be up near the lead in the fence. So, of course, there was pressure on all the way. I don't think they were just going to say, oh well, here Trail Faz, you stroll across and find the fence, and we'll all sit back here and you can have the advantage. Well, even though it did find the fence, it was made work to get there. The winner rounded them up well at the finish. That was about the meeting. As I say, Kembla Grange is on tomorrow, plus there's another meeting out wide somewhere, and then we've got 1,000 meetings on next week. If you were wire netting today, I hope you won. Good evening.